Sing me a song of a lass that is gone.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylee and this video is another video in the Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone playlist series. Now, if you don't know what this playlist series is about, it is, as I said, about the amazing book by Diana Gabaldon, Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone, which is the latest book in the Outlander series of books. So if you have not read up to this book or you do not know what book I'm even talking about, I would highly recommend jumping out of this video and going to one of the other Outlander videos I have here on the channel, because there'll definitely be something here that you will enjoy if you're an Outlander fan or if you're a true crime fan or any other sort of YouTube fan. But this video is definitely not for you to just sort of jump in, because it's halfway through the book and there's lots of spoilers ahead. So if you don't want to know any of that sort of stuff, click away, click away. So in the previous chapter videos, we were talking about how Rachel and Jenny have decided that they are also going with young Ian to New York to try and find the Indian tribe, the Mohawks, that he was staying with, his, I'm going to say his ex-wife, and the apparent child that may still be alive that is young Ian's. So they're basically going off on this massive adventure, and the previous chapters was basically everyone saying, well, we're all coming. So, I mean, it's scary. It's very scary that all these guys are going off on an adventure together. And when they go off on adventures, bad things happen. So I'm very, very worried about these characters. I'm very, very worried. But as we jump into the first chapter for today's video, it basically continued on the same storyline of people telling other people that they're going. Now, in this chapter, we discover that there is a bear again somewhere nearby. And Jamie has decided he needs to go and just have a look, make sure it's not close, etc. He goes up onto the meadow. And that's where Jenny is, or Jenny follows him up there with some of her goats. Now, it's during this chapter that we discover that Jenny is basically telling Jamie, well, I'm going with them, and they're going off on this grand adventure. And it was really much a goodbye chapter, which is what is scaring me. So I do believe that Jenny will not return to the Ridge now after reading this chapter. I have just horrible thoughts for Jenny. But we'll go into that at the end of this video, I guess. So throughout the chapter, they also bring up a really cool subject, which I know a lot of us fans will love to read about and listen about, and that is Murta. So he has a really big presence in this chapter, and obviously he's gone in the books, but they're discussing lots of things about Murta and how his death came about, and the battle at Culloden. Blackjack Randall gets a mention. There's lots of reminiscing, and there's lots of moments where it's like he's sort of blocked those memories out, but he has told Jenny everything that happened in the past. So she is sort of jumping in saying, well, you said this happened, this happened. I found it really interesting. I mean, obviously you would try and block out those thoughts anyway, so I don't believe he's just simply forgetting them. But it was really interesting for Murta to come up in conversation. I found that really, really interesting. Sticking along with the discussions of death, though, and the fact that Jenny is planning on leaving, she does have a set of rosemary beads, which are of great value to her. Now, she does ask Jamie to hold on to these beads, and if she does not return, to give them to young Mandy. Now, these are obviously heirlooms. They were passed down from, I believe, their mother. And this is what I mean. When things like this start happening, it's setting up the timeline of events for Jenny not to come back. And I'm just like, I'm not prepared for that. I'm not prepared for Jenny not to return. It's... Anyway, the conversation also moves to Jamie telling Jenny, well, like, I'll take you back to Lollybrock. You will most certainly be laid to rest with Ian. And Jenny does say, well, you know, yeah, that would be great if you can, but if I'm not here, then it's probably going to be a bit difficult for you. And that's when Jamie was like, huh? What do you mean? Where are you going? And this is when Jenny says, well, I'm going. So I guess I've worded this chapter wrong already for you guys because I was so fixated on the fact that she's leaving. But that does come out at the end of the chapter, after they have talked about murder, after they have talked about, you know, like just so much sort of death and disharmony and previous battles and things like that. And then we come to, oh, by the way, yeah, you can take my body back to Lollybrook if I'm here, but if I'm not, don't stress too much. I'd love to know what you're thinking about Jenny. Like, I mean, look, don't spoil, but were you worried? I'm very worried. I can't express enough how worried I am for Jenny. I don't think she's coming back to the Ridge. I think this is her goodbye to the world, which, well, not to the world, obviously, but I think it's her final hurrah. It's her final timing at the Ridge. I hope so badly that I am wrong, though. So badly. Chapter 59 is titled Special Requests, and this is the first chapter in part 4 of the book, which is a journey of 1,000 miles. So we're basically sticking with the theme of the big adventure of travel here. So let's just jump into what happened in this chapter. Basically, Jamie has given Ian a care package, so to say, for his great big journey and is starting to discuss the fact that he is going away. Jamie also asks Ian if, on his adventure to Philadelphia, if he could stop at Sylvia Hardman's establishment. Now, if you remember her, she was the one that looked after Jamie when he was ill, and she had the 3 young girls. Now, he has asked Ian if he can drop off a bag of coins to her. I think this is amazingly lovely because, I mean, I forgot about her, to be honest. I forgot that had all happened until this came back up. And it's like, no matter how much time passes, Jamie will repay his debts and look after people that have looked after him. And I completely forgot that this woman existed. Like, she totally had left my brain of characters in this book. So the fact that, you know, she got brought up, and then as soon as she was mentioned, I was like, oh yeah, of course. She, you know, she looked after Jamie when he had a really sore back and he was down and out. You know, she was there and she looked after him. So that was Jamie's sort of special request for this chapter. Then we have Claire and Ian having a discussion, and it is also Claire that asks young Ian to go and see, I don't know who actually he is on the way to see at this point in time, but she asks if he can go into a brothel in Philadelphia. Throughout this chapter, I'm sure it wasn't mentioned at this point in time anyway, who or why, but just the fact that she wanted him to go there, and then the chapter sort of ended. September 15th, 1779 is when the next chapter is set, and it is called Just One Step. Now, this chapter basically starts off with Rachel, young Ian, and Oggy all heading up to the big house for their official sort of head off. They have given away their furniture. They've put, you know, they've set off. Everything is in motion now. We are actually leaving. Are we ready for a big adventure? Because I feel that is certainly what is going to come. It just has to. Now, throughout this chapter, Rachel and Jamie have a fairly decent discussion, actually, and it was really interesting to learn. I don't know if we have learnt this previously, and it's, again, one of those facts that has slipped my brain, but Jamie can't actually hear music. He just hears sounds. Like, so when music's playing, it's just sound to him. To him, it's not music. I found that really odd, and I'm like, I wonder if that's... I just don't know if I was meant to pick up on something else in this sort of discussion for him. But he did say that when he was younger, he was hit in the head with an axe, and therefore music is just sound. Which I found that really weird. And I can't comprehend how if you can hear sounds and you're not deaf, you can't hear music. If you understand that more, or please educate me in the comments, because I'm truly fascinated by this theory. Chapter 60, and we are officially on our way. So as we are heading into the local town, or the closest town of Salisbury, we realise that Jamie has actually gone at least to here with them. Now, when they arrive there, they meet someone called Francis Locke, who is basically a colonel or the head of militia or whatever is going on in this settlement in this town. I did love how Jenny made a good, like, funny haha at the very start and said, well, this town, it looks shabby and it doesn't look like it's been here very long. And Jamie makes a point of saying, well, it's actually been here for like 20 something years. Like, it's a town, it's here. And I thought, now that tells me something about this town. If it's not looking like it's been an established place for 20 years, is it going to be a major threat? I don't know, but I just thought that was a key little, I thought that was just a little something that might be of interest later, if that makes sense. The fact that this town doesn't look like it's fully a town. I mean, if a town's been there for 20 years, you would think Jenny, of all people, who has done a fair bit of travelling at this point now, would accept, well, not accept, but be like, oh yeah, okay, it's a town, not a shack residence. I hope that makes sense, but I just found it really interesting. Something to put in the back of your mind, maybe for a later date. Anyway, at this point, Francis Locke seems like a fairly decent guy, and he has asked Jamie and the crew to come over for supper. We then discover that he's actually also the town mortician, and, you know, when dead bodies rock up, he's the one to be called upon. Even in this chapter, Jamie makes a point of saying how he doesn't mind Francis Locke. He seems nice and normal, which I'm really hoping he is, because he's the head of the militia over here. We need some more allies and some more friends at this point. But as I said, he is the mortician of the town also. So when a body was discovered in the laneway a few blocks away from there, he was called upon, and Jamie and Francis Locke head on over to have a look. Chapter 62 is titled A Stranger's Face, and it continues on with Francis Locke and Jamie going and having a look at the body that has been found. Now, they do have a sort of makeshift morgue, I'm going to say, or not a morgue, but a makeshift area where the body goes, and that is to the local stable. It's here that they work out that the body had actually been robbed, or they're assuming it had been robbed, and he was just sort of a scruffy fella. But then Jamie sort of notices that the face of this man is a little bit familiar. Eventually, Francis Locke sort of makes his exit, and as Jamie and he walk back, Jamie decides no, he needs to go back to the stable and have just one more look. And that is where young Ian is sort of in the stable at this point in time. He's appeared because he's like, well, I wanted to see who it was, whatever. He's arrived at the stable. So they're both looking at this guy and they're both saying this, he looks familiar, but not someone that we actually know. The conversation then gets brought back to, of course, Claire's vicious attack, and it was ruled out that this guy is not someone that was in the attack, but is most certainly a relative of the guy that Jamie had killed and Blue Bell came from. So I'm not sure I'm not sure who or how, but they're definitely pointing out that he looks like the guy that Jamie killed who attacked Claire, must be a relative of some description, but not him, because we know Jamie has already dealt with him. And the conversation came up, of course, that, you know, if young Ian had to help Jamie, of course he would, and there was lots of discussion about the Claire's attack, which I don't want to go into, because it's sort of, I feel like we're repeating ourselves a lot in regards to that, but I didn't know why we had to, I don't understand why we've had to make this guy look like the guy that attacked Claire. Like, it might come up later on with some more relevance, maybe, but I just don't see the point, unless one of them are going to get blamed for this murder later on down the track. I don't know. I just didn't see the point in it. I just didn't see the point. Now, as the conversations continue throughout this chapter with young Ian and Jamie, that bloody book of Frank Randall's pops up into conversation. Now, I'm sorry about my language, but this book, oh my God, this book. What is Frank doing to us? He is actually rocking my soul. Like, this guy has pushed all my buttons in this one chapter. So, get ready for this. They're discussing the book, and Jamie tells Ian about the book and how it has, you know, it's documenting the battles and battles to come, and how in this book a Jamie Fraser is mentioned 14 times, but it's not locked down to be, you know, Jamie. It's never locked in that it is Jamie Fraser from, you know, Lollybrock, it's never locked in which Jamie it is, but he is mentioned 14 times, and that there is a battle coming up that is going to be very close to the Ridge in 1 year's time, in that October of the next year, and Jamie is killed. Can we talk about this? Because I am gobsmacked. Why? Okay, so one, has Brie read this book? Because if you've just glazed over this book by now, you would surely read every single thing that you could find to try, especially that Frank has written, to try and figure out if he knew, or to find things about Jamie. This book has been there for a long time. Has everybody read it? Like, or is Jamie the only person that has read this bloody book? Why is nobody worried that Jamie Fraser now knows that he's going to, well, apparently, die in 12 months' time? What is going on? Why was nobody worried about that? Why has Brie not read this book? I'm absolutely just, I had to stop reading. That's how I got so annoyed at all my beloved favorite characters for not being freaked out about this. What is going on? I would absolutely love to know your thoughts about this Frank book, because to me, in this entire video, like all the chapters that I cover in this video, that is the most important piece of information that has come to light so far. Maybe in this entire whole book. But the fact that nobody else has been shocked about it, as in on the Ridge, there's no way they just can't have read this book. Because why would you not have discussed it openly? Why have Jamie and Claire not discussed it yet? Why has Brie not brought it up? Why is this book still sitting here? Why have they not moved? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously they're not going to move, but like, why? Why is it not discussed? It's actually doing my head in. So, yeah, I would certainly love to know your thoughts on that, because it's just, I have no words. I have no words for how annoyed I am that it hasn't been discussed and brought up, because obviously Jamie knew. So why hasn't he said something to anybody? Anyway, that's today's video, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed my outrage, my absolute outrage, and how just, yeah, why hasn't it been discussed? You know, you have those moments where you just love to ask a character. I mean, obviously you would, I mean, I know this is a book and it's a series or whatever, and I would just love to be able to ask the actual character. So, I mean, if I could pop into that book and be like, okay, Brie, I need to know, did you read this book at all? Have you discovered what is written in this book? Like, do you know that Jamie Fraser dies in October of next year and you just haven't brought that up for a conversation yet? I just want to know. I'd love to be able to do that. I'd love to be able to jump into certain books and pick characters' minds. Because, I mean, obviously, we could ask Sophie Skelton and she's going to say, I don't know. But I mean, Diana Gabaldon's the only one who knows, isn't she? She is all these characters. And it just blows my mind that there's so many amazing stories in that woman's brain. And they've all, you know, because she would have so many different stories in her head that aren't even just Outlander related. They could just be just some random character that she's created, and it's just sitting somewhere in her brain ready for a day to be written down. I'd love to have that ability. I'd love to be that talented to be able to do that. Yeah. Sorry, I've gone on a bit of a tangent, but I love talking to you guys. And lately, the comment section, well, all the time, not just lately, but the comment section in these videos, not only on this series, but the season 6 videos and the normal Outlander videos, has been absolutely amazing. You guys have kept me absolutely sane the last couple of weeks with being able to talk about stuff and having conversations. I really appreciate it. But yes, now I must go because I need to continue reading. Because I need to try and read at least a whole year of this book to get us to October, to know if Frank is just trying to screw us over again. I hope you have enjoyed today's video, and I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, as that's coming up very shortly. And I will see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.
Sing me a song of a lass that is gone.